Her ex-husband returned with a brutal warning about her new marriage. Now she helped police and sent him to prison for life. The autumn afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows of the small house in the Maplewood residential neighborhood. Bethany Collins was brewing coffee in the kitchen, reflecting on her day with a peaceful mind. Her life was completely different from what it had been 10 years ago. The confusion and anguish of those days had become distant memories, and now quiet, happy days continued. "Bethany, I am going to be late again today," Mark's voice came from the living room. He ran a real estate business and had been particularly busy lately. Bethany smiled as she prepared 2 coffee cups. They had only been married for 1 year, but Mark was the ideal husband. He was kind, responsible, and above all, he cherished her. "Do not overdo it," Bethany said, handing Mark his coffee. His warm hand touched her fingers, and a sense of security spread through her heart. After the painful experience 10 years ago, she thought she had finally found true happiness. 10 years ago, Bethany had been married to another man. Tom Miller was her age, and had been a promising engineer at the time. They met in college and married immediately after graduation. The first few years were happy. Their newlywed life in a small apartment was not wealthy, but it was filled with love. However, around their 3rd year of marriage, Tom began acting strangely. He started coming home late from work and spending more weekends out with friends. At first, she thought it was work stress, but eventually the truth became clear. Tom had become addicted to gambling. "You lost again, did not you?" One night, Bethany was shocked when she looked at their bank account balance. Their savings were nearly depleted. Tom just looked down without saying anything. The sparkle that had once been in his eyes was gone. "You promised you would stop. I thought I could win it back this time. For you too." Tom's words rang hollow. The same exchange was repeated over and over. He would say he was going to get treatment, but it never lasted, and the debt kept growing. Bethany tried desperately to support him, but finally reached her limit. The divorce proceedings were a painful experience. Separating from someone she loved felt like losing a part of herself. Tom continued to say he would get treatment until the end, but Bethany no longer had the strength to believe him. At 25, divorced Bethany decided to return to her parents' home and rebuild her life. The following years were devoted to concentrating on work and rebuilding her life. She worked part-time as a clerk while attending night school for bookkeeping. She distanced herself from romance and spent time examining herself. Friends encouraged her to meet new people, but Bethany was not ready yet. She met Mark 2 years ago. He was sitting at the next table at a friend's wedding, a calm, attractive man. He ran a real estate business and had a stable income and clear plans for the future. Most importantly, he showed understanding even when he learned about Bethany's past. The past is the past. What matters is now and the future. Mark's words made Bethany feel saved. He never rushed her, slowly melting her heart. When they married after 1 year of dating, Bethany was convinced she had found true happiness. Their current life was ordinary but fulfilling. She worked as a part-time clerk and spent weekends with Mark. The small house in the quiet suburban neighborhood was more than enough for the two of them. She had built good relationships with the neighbors, and Bethany was enjoying stable days for the first time in a long while. However, there was something that had been bothering her lately. Mark's evening business outings were increasing. She had heard that real estate deals often took place after hours, so she did not consider it particularly problematic. Still, it was true that they were spending less time together compared to when they were newlyweds. "A big deal is in motion," Mark explained, and Bethany showed understanding. He was not the type to lie, and she thought his dedication to work was a good thing. Besides, she did not sense any of the instability that Tom had shown 10 years ago. Mark was always calm, methodical, and a reliable husband. In the evening, Bethany decided to go shopping for dinner. Mark had said he would be late again tonight, but she thought she would make his favorite roast beef and wait for him. As she walked to the supermarket, she was enveloped in a feeling of happiness. She believed she had overcome the pain of the past and finally found real love. In the early days of their marriage, Mark was exactly the ideal husband Bethany had dreamed of. Every morning, he would get up before her to make coffee and say, "Good morning, beautiful wife," while kissing her forehead. On weekends, they would walk around the neighborhood together, holding hands like a scene from a movie. Bethany was experiencing a peace she had never felt before in her life. "When I am with you, everything looks perfect," Mark would often say, embracing Bethany. In his arms, she truly felt loved. It was completely different from her marriage to Tom. Tom had been an affectionate person, but he was somehow unstable and constantly worried about the future. Mark was different. He had solid confidence and clearly envisioned their future together. Mark's financial success in real estate was also reassuring to Bethany. He supported the household budget stably without relying on her part-time income. When buying new furniture, he would say, "Choose whatever you like," without showing any concern about the price. Having lived with financial anxiety for so long, this stability was an irreplaceable gift for Bethany. "I want to have children in the future too," Mark said one night while they were cuddling on the sofa watching TV. Bethany's heart warmed. In her marriage to Tom, they had not even had the luxury of talking about the future. With debt and gambling problems, every day was a struggle. She thought she could surely build a happy family with Mark. Mark's parents also welcomed Bethany warmly. When they first met, his mother, Ellen, took her hand and said, "When I see Mark's expression when he talks about you, I can tell he really loves you. We think of you as our own daughter." His father, Robert, was also a quiet, intelligent man who treated her without any prying into her past. Mark's family gave her the stability and acceptance she had been seeking for so long. About 6 months after their marriage, Bethany had completely settled into life with Mark. In the mornings she would see him off, go to her part-time job, and in the evenings they would cook and eat dinner together. On weekends they would go to the nearby farmer's market or see movies. It was ordinary, but that was more precious to Bethany than anything. Mark also actively helped with housework. "You work too, so let us do the household tasks together," he said, sharing cleaning and laundry duties. Tom had not been completely unhelpful with chores, but after he became obsessed with gambling, he stopped caring about household matters. Mark's thoughtfulness was a fresh surprise to Bethany. "You are truly a wonderful woman. I am lucky," Mark would frequently say, praising Bethany. He called her cooking restaurant quality and described her clothing as elegant and beautiful. Bethany had been losing confidence in herself, but gradually regained it through Mark's words on their wedding anniversary. Mark made reservations at a high-end restaurant. Under the candlelight, he took her hand and said, "This past year with you has made me truly happy. I want to continue cherishing you forever." Tears welled up in Bethany's eyes. 10 years ago, when her marriage to Tom fell apart, she thought she would never find true love again. But Mark had proven to her that she was wrong. However, around 8 months after their marriage, subtle changes began to appear. Mark's business outings started increasing. At first, it was about once a week, but gradually became 2 or 3 times a week. "A big project is underway," Mark explained. "There are more dinner meetings with clients, so I might be late more often." Bethany showed understanding. She had heard that evening business meetings were common in the real estate industry, and she thought Mark had no reason to lie. Besides, he always contacted her in advance, and despite being tired when he came home, he still valued their time together. Good work. That must be tough. Bethany would warmly welcome Mark when he came home late. He would smile apologetically and embrace her. "Sorry, Bethany, just bear with me a little longer." Still, as the nights alone increased, Bethany gradually began to feel lonely. Unlike in the early days of their marriage, they rarely ate dinner together every night. Even on weekends, Mark would sometimes go out saying he had appointments that could not be avoided. When she consulted her friend Sarah, she said, "That is married life. It starts all lovey-dovey, but eventually reality sets in. But Mark is a good man, so do not worry." Bethany thought so too. Mark had certainly gotten busier, but his love for her seemed unchanged. After coming home, he would always ask about her day, and on weekends they would leisurely have breakfast together. "I can work hard because you are here," Mark would often say. "I am busy now, but eventually I will have more free time. Then I can spend more time with you." Bethany believed his words. Unlike Tom, Mark had clear goals and plans. She understood that his dedication to work was also for their future. One Friday night, Mark came home later than usual. The clock had passed 11 p.m. Bethany was waiting for him in the living room reading. "I am really late. The dinner with a client went long," Mark said, looking tired as he entered the house. However, at that moment, Bethany caught a faint scent of perfume. It was a sweet fragrance different from what she used. "Are you okay? You must be tired." Bethany greeted him without saying anything. She thought he must have had dinner with a female client. She had heard that there were many female customers in the real estate industry. "Thank you. You are really understanding." Mark kissed her and headed to take a shower. Bethany dismissed her momentary doubt. Mark was an honest man, he could not be having an affair. The next morning, Saturday, Mark got up early and made breakfast. He was gentle and loving as usual. "Today I will spend the whole day with you. Shall we go shopping at the supermarket?" Bethany nodded happily. It was a rare opportunity for them to go out together. With his recent busyness, such time had become precious. "What are we shopping for? I want to make something you like, so I want you to choose the ingredients." Mark's suggestion made Bethany's heart leap. He really was a wonderful husband. The recent changes must be temporary. Believing this, she began preparing to go shopping. Bethany and Mark parked their car in the Maplewood supermarket parking lot. The autumn sunlight was gentle, perfect weather for shopping. Mark took her hand and said, "Today is just for you, choose whatever you like." Bethany smiled happily. Since she had been shopping alone recently, this time spent with her husband felt special. The supermarket was crowded with families on this Saturday afternoon. Bethany pushed the cart toward the produce section. Mark walked beside her, occasionally making jokes that made her laugh. Would these tomatoes be good? When Bethany showed him the tomatoes she had picked up, Mark nodded. Your choices are never wrong. The two continued shopping, while chatting intimately. Bethany was enjoying this ordinary happiness for the first time in a while. It felt like the warmth from the early days of their marriage had returned. While selecting meat for roast beef at the meat counter, Bethany suddenly felt someone watching her. When she turned around, there was a familiar silhouette about 10 meters away in the frozen food section. The height, shoulder width, hairstyle. She recognized him instantly. It was Tom. Seeing her ex-husband for the first time in 10 years, Bethany's heart began pounding violently. Tom appeared to be alone, selecting something in front of the frozen foods. He seemed a bit thinner than before, but still had the same well-defined profile. Bethany hesitated for a moment. Should she call out to him, or should she pretend not to notice and pass by? Mark was absorbed in selecting meat and had not noticed her agitation. Finally, Bethany made up her mind. 10 years had passed and they were both living new lives. Now she could greet him normally as adults. "Mark, wait here for a moment. I'm going to say hello to someone I know." Mark turned around and smiled. "Of course. I will be here selecting meat." Bethany slowly walked toward Tom. He still had not noticed her presence. He was standing in front of frozen pizzas, apparently reading the ingredient labels. "Tom!" At her voice, Tom turned around. For a moment, a look of surprise crossed his face. Then it immediately became a complex smile. "Bethany, it has been a long time, really long time. How have you been?" A slightly awkward silence fell between them. However, it was not a hostile silence. Rather, it was a quietly nostalgic stillness between those who had overcome past pain. "Yes, thank you. I am glad you look well too." Tom's voice lacked the instability it once had. It was calm and had a peaceful quality. "Are you continuing treatment?" Bethany asked hesitantly. It was difficult to touch on the gambling addiction that had caused their divorce, but she was concerned about her ex-husband's health. "Yes, it has been 5 years now. I am completely clean now. I found work and I am living a normal life." Tom's answer relieved Bethany. She was happy to know he had properly recovered. "That is good. I was worried about you." "Thank you. I really caused you trouble. I still feel sorry about it." At Tom's apology, Bethany shook her head. "That is all in the past now. We are both moving forward, are not we?" At that moment, Mark approached. Carrying a bag with meat, he called out to Bethany with a smile, "Good job. A friend." Bethany turned around, about to introduce Mark and Tom. "Mark, this is..." But before she could continue, Tom's expression completely changed. The moment he saw Mark, the color drained from his face. He looked as if he had seen death itself. A look of terror appeared. "Tom, are you okay?" Bethany called out in surprise. Tom did not answer, just stared at Mark. In his eyes was clear fear and some other emotion, something like anger, like despair, a complex emotion. Mark also looked back at Tom with a confused expression. "Nice to meet you. I am Mark Davis." However, Tom suddenly turned on his heel without returning the greeting. "Wait, Tom!" Bethany called out, but Tom did not look back and hurried away from the scene. As if fleeing from something, he rushed toward the supermarket exit. "What was that about?" Mark tilted his head. "Was not he a friend?" "My ex-husband," Bethany answered honestly. She had told Mark about her past, so there was no need to hide it. "Ah, so it was awkward, but there was no need to run away in such a panic." Mark shrugged. "Well, men are sensitive about these things." Bethany nodded but felt uneasy inside. Tom's reaction went beyond mere awkwardness. That was clearly an expression of fear. Why had he been so upset seeing Mark? They continued shopping, but Bethany's mind was occupied with thoughts of Tom. She regretted that their reunion after 10 years had ended that way. At least she was able to confirm that he was doing well, but his abnormal reaction at the end bothered her greatly. After paying at the register and heading to the parking lot, Bethany's cell phone rang. It was a message from an unknown number. The message simply read, "Divorce immediately. Your husband is—" The sentence cut off there. Looking at the sender's number, she did not recognize it, but intuitively knew it was from Tom. "What is wrong?" Mark asked with concern. "Nothing, wrong number." Bethany quickly put away her phone. However, her heart was pounding violently. What was Tom trying to say? Why did he tell her to divorce? What did he know about Mark? Even after getting in the car, Bethany's mind was full of Tom's message. 10 years ago, he had made her suffer with his gambling addiction. But today's Tom was clearly recovered. He was calm and had shown remorse. Why would such a man send a warning-like message? "Today was fun," Mark said while driving. "It has been a while since we could spend time together leisurely." "Yes, it was," Bethany answered absent-mindedly. Glancing at Mark sitting next to her, she saw her usual kind husband's face. He did not seem to be hiding anything. Tom's warning must be some misunderstanding based on past resentment. However, her phone vibrated again. Another new message had arrived. The message read, "Tomorrow at 2 p.m., let us meet at Cafe Luna on Main Street. I have important information about your life. Please believe me." This time it was clearly sent with Tom's name. Bethany took a deep breath. She did not know what was happening, but Tom was seriously trying to tell her something. The Tom from 10 years ago could not have written such a calm message. During the drive home, Bethany was conflicted. She did not want to suspect Mark. However, she could not ignore Tom's desperate manner either. Should she go to the cafe tomorrow? "Bethany, are you okay? You seem a bit tired today," Mark asked with concern. "I am fine. I was just a bit shocked to meet my ex-husband." "That is understandable, but it is in the past now, so you do not need to worry about it too much." Mark squeezed her hand. "We have the present and the future." Bethany smiled back, but deep down she had made up her mind. Tomorrow she would meet Tom. She needed to properly hear what he wanted to say. If it concerned her life, she had the right to know the truth. The next day, Bethany arrived at Cafe Luna a little before 2 p.m. This small cafe on Main Street was loved by locals for its calm atmosphere. She had only told Mark that she was having tea with a friend before leaving the house. Lying made her feel heavy, but she could not make any judgments without first hearing Tom's story. Tom was already sitting at a table in the back. Unlike yesterday, he had a calm expression. However, there was seriousness in his eyes. Bethany sat in the seat across from him and quietly spoke. "I was surprised yesterday running away in such a panic. Sorry, but when I saw that man next to you, my mind went completely blank." Tom sighed deeply. "Bethany, what I am about to tell you may be unbelievable, but your life depends on it. Please listen to the end." Bethany nodded. She prepared herself mentally for Tom's serious manner. "First, let me tell you the truth about why I got into gambling," Tom began speaking quietly. "As my treatment progressed, I began to remember the beginning of my gambling addiction in detail. It started with light betting that a colleague invited me to. That colleague's name was Mark Davis." Bethany's blood froze. 10 years ago, Mark was in the sales department at my company. At first, he approached me as a kind and charming senior. He invited me out for drinks and led me into horse racing and poker games. It started with small amounts, but before I knew it, I was making high-stakes bets. Tom gripped his coffee cup with trembling hands. I did not realize it at the time, but looking back now, everything was orchestrated. In the illegal casinos, the games were rigged, so I would always lose. Mark constantly encouraged me, saying, "You will definitely win it back next time." "No way," Bethany whispered in a trembling voice. 5 years ago, when my treatment was on track, I questioned why I had become addicted so rapidly. So, I hired a private investigator to look into Mark's past. Tom took out a thick file from his bag. "This is that investigation report. Mark Davis was a false name. His real name is Michael Lazarus. He was a criminal specializing in marriage fraud and prostitution trafficking." Bethany received the file with trembling hands. It contained detailed investigation records and photographs, records of Mark's activities over the past 15 years, lists of victims, details of his criminal methods. His method was always the same, Tom continued. First, he would identify women with assets. He would make the woman's husband or boyfriend addicted and destroy their relationship. Then he would approach the hurt woman as an understanding man and marry her. Finally, he would force the woman into debt and make her work at an illegal brothel. The file also contained testimonies from Mark's past victims: San Francisco, Seattle, Denver. He had repeated the same pattern in each city. Our marriage was part of his plan from the beginning. He researched and found out that your family had assets, then approached me. Bethany felt dizzy. But why has not he been caught until now? Because he is clever. He leaves no evidence and victims are too embarrassed to report to police. Plus, he operates across state lines, so the pattern is hard to see. Tom took out another document. This is the decisive evidence. Current activity records of Mark photographed by the detective. Since marrying you, he has already begun preparing for the next stage. The photographs showed Mark in secret discussions with unknown men. Some clearly had antisocial appearances. Starting next month, Mark is planning to approach you with an investment proposal. Under the guise of a sure-profit real estate investment, he will try to get you to take on debt using your family's assets as collateral. When you cannot repay that debt, you will be forced to work at an illegal brothel run by his associates. Bethany was crying. The reality that the love she believed in was all a lie was unacceptable. There is one more important thing. Tom opened the last file. Mark currently has another woman, a mistress he has been with since before marrying you. She is an accomplice who helps with Mark's crimes. The photograph showed Mark talking intimately with a young woman. The woman was beautiful but gave a somewhat cold impression. Mark's recent increase in evening outings was to finalize plans with this woman. The perfume smell you noticed was probably from this woman. All the pieces came together. Bethany understood how thoroughly she had been deceived. Why did you stay silent until now? Why did not you tell me earlier? It took time to gather evidence. Besides, you looked so happy that I thought maybe I was mistaken, but yesterday, seeing Mark with you, I was certain. That was definitely the man who destroyed me. Tom leaned forward. Bethany, it is not too late for you. The police have been waiting for this evidence. They need your cooperation to arrest Mark. What should I do? First, go home and move important documents and valuables to a safe place. Then tomorrow, come with me to the police station. With your testimony, we can arrest Mark. Bethany closed the file with trembling hands. Are there other victims? The investigation shows over 20 women have been victimized. Some have committed suicide. If you speak up, other victims can be saved too. After a long silence, Bethany made up her mind. All right, let us do it. Tom showed a relieved expression. Thank you, Bethany. You are brave, Tom. Why are you doing so much for me? We are not married anymore. Tom smiled sadly. My love for you has not changed. I made you suffer because of my problems, and now I cannot stand by while another man deceives you. I will do anything for your happiness. Bethany wiped her tears. 10 years ago, Tom, who had betrayed her with gambling, had been a victim from the start, and now he was trying to save her. Act normal tonight. You must not let Mark suspect anything. Contact me tomorrow morning. Let us go to the police together. As they left the cafe, Bethany turned back to look at Tom. Thank you. And about 10 years ago, I want to apologize too. You were also a victim, but I blamed you. It is okay. What matters is now and the future. Those words were ironically the same ones Mark often said. However, coming from Tom's mouth, they had completely different weight. 1 year later, Bethany sat in the courtroom gallery. The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. For defendant Michael Lazarus, also known as Mark Davis, for the crimes of marriage fraud, forced prostitution, organized crime, and others, I sentence him to life imprisonment. Bethany sighed deeply. The long battle was finally over. The year that began with Mark's arrest had been like a nightmare. But today everything was finally settled. When she left the courtroom, Tom was waiting. While continuing his treatment, he had supported Bethany's testimony preparation and victims group activities. Good work, Bethany. Thanks to your courage, many women were saved. Indeed, following Bethany's accusation, other victims came forward one after another. Eventually, 23 women reported being victimized, and the full extent of Mark's crimes was revealed. Some were victims from over 10 years ago who finally could tell their truth with tears. It was the result of everyone working together. I could not have done anything alone. Bethany had begun volunteer work at a victim support center. It was work providing counseling and legal support to women who had suffered similar fraud or violence. She found deep meaning in using her experience to help others. "You have really become strong," Tom said. At Tom's words, Bethany smiled. Certainly she had changed greatly over this past year. From victim to survivor, and now as a supporter, walking a new life path. "It is thanks to you. If you had not had the courage to tell me the truth that day, I would have been in much worse trouble." Tom scratched his head embarrassedly. "You saved me too. By protecting you, I was able to heal myself." During this past year, the two had supported each other as friends. They did not return to a romantic relationship, but were bound by deep trust and respect. Tom continued regular counseling, and now worked as a peer counselor in a local addiction support group. "When is the next victims group meeting?" "Next Saturday. We have 3 new participants." The victims group that Bethany founded was now recognized as an important support organization in the state. It was a place where women who had suffered fraud or violence could gather, share experiences, and support each other. Outside the courthouse, a local TV station reporter asked Bethany for an interview. "Please tell us about today's verdict. I am relieved that justice has been served, but this is not the end. Many women are still suffering from similar victimization. We will continue to support them." Bethany's words resonated with many viewers. Later, the Victim Support Center was flooded with donations and offers of support from across the country. In the evening, Bethany visited her parents' home for the first time in a while. Her parents were proud of their daughter's strength and activities. "You have really become admirable," her mother said. "You overcame difficult experiences and are now helping others." "Maybe there is no meaningless suffering in life," Bethany replied. "If my experience can help others, I can feel that everything had meaning." That night, Bethany spent quiet time alone. She'd already sold the house where she lived during her marriage to Mark and now lived in a small apartment. It was simple but a space where she could truly relax. A message arrived on her phone from a member of the victims group. The message read, "Bethany, thank you so much for today. Thanks to your courage, I can move forward too." Each time she received such messages, Bethany was convinced her choice had been right. Looking out the window, stars were shining. 10 years ago when she divorced Tom, she had been in the depths of despair. 1 year ago when she learned Mark's true identity, she felt as if the world was collapsing. But now, it was different. She had overcome past pain and was walking a new path, transforming it into strength. She learned that true love means accepting the other person, including their past, and supporting each other through difficulties. Tom had spent 10 years investigating the truth and tried to protect her, even at risk to himself. That was true love. Bethany opened her diary and wrote her thoughts for the day. "A new chapter begins. The past was a gift that made me strong. The future is full of hope." Tomorrow, victim support activities would continue. She would face women with painful pasts and walk the path of healing together. That was now the most meaningful life for her.